All right, we're going to start going into our notes now, which you already should have open, but if you don't, or you like X'd out of it by accident, here's the weather indicators folder, which will be activated for you. Your notes will be right up at the top. You open them up. All right, and this is what it'll look like. You should have already filled this out. I did it on a different paper, so it'll look different. Okay. The first thing we want to talk about is how we make a weather map. And the first thing that you should know is that weather data is recorded at thousands of stations. So they're weather stations recorded at thousands of stations. Highlight that. Often at commercial airports throughout the United States and the rest of the world. So if I look at this, I'll show you a picture of what one of them looks like. You might have seen at airports a weird stick that goes black, white, or red, white, red, white, red, white, red, white. And it has a whole bunch of collectors right there. We used to have a weather station on the 300 hallway in our school, or on top of our school, but she broke. So I don't know if it's still up there or not, but this is what it looks like. And it records a good amount of information, such as these stations record weather data such as temperature, dew point, cloud cover, visibility, height of cloud base, amount of precipitation, wind speed, and wind direction. And that's only a couple of the things. Now, let me show you. This is going to be like a preview for what you're going to see in this unit. So once a weather station collects that data, obviously it shoots it out to the rest of the world, and it shoots it out looking like this. This is a weather station model that would be sent to other meteorologists and whatnot, and they're all set up the same way. So they all have this circle in the middle, and that circle is going to show cloud cover. So at this station, I can already tell the sky is 100% covered with clouds, okay? If I look up and to the left, 76, that's always going to be the temperature. The temperature, if I go from the circle up and to the left, there she be. If I go down to the left, that's always dew point. If I go straight from the left, that is the current weather, okay? And then there's always a stick. If there's wind, there will be a stick coming out of the circle, and that points in the wind direction. So the wind is coming from up here and being pretty much stabbed by this stick. And then there's little, they call them feathers on the end here, and those show how fast the wind is going. So however many feathers there are, if there's more feathers, the faster the wind, all right? Up and to the right, there's pressure, and then straight from the right is the pressure tendency. Like, is the pressure increasing or decreasing, okay? So that will come later. You will need to know about it. I'm just kind of giving you a preview. All right, regional patterns and surface air temperatures can be identified on a weather map. So isotherms, notice that therms, just like thermometer, has to do with temperature. So these are lines of equal temperature that are drawn to identify air masses and frontal boundaries. So, I didn't mean that to be a different color, but so be it. So if I look here, this guy right here, which is drawn on your paper, you can see that obviously this is a huge chunk of cold air. This is a huge chunk of warm air, and where they meet and the temperature changes really quickly, that's where a front will be. And that's important because usually where you have like a cold front or a warm front, you will get storms. And that's something that we want to be able to report to people. Okay. Isotherm maps, like the one shown above, are typically drawn in 10-degree intervals. On your activity on Monday, you are going to have to draw these. So you need to keep in mind that isotherms go up by tens. These air temperature patterns show where different air masses and fronts are found throughout the region. So air temperature patterns show where different air masses and fronts are found. Let's highlight that. All right, 2 vocab words. Air mass. It's a large body of air with the same temperature. So they have the same temperature and moisture content. So if I look here, This is showing you that this cold air probably came from up here on the Earth, right? If it came from Canada, it's called continental and will be considered dry because there's no water that's evaporating up into it. If it comes over the Pacific Ocean over here, it's called maritime, and that air is considered more humid. Okay, obviously it's coming, if it's coming from the north, it's going to be polar or Arctic, whereas this warm air it looks like it's coming off of the Gulf of Mexico, pushing up in here. And that if it's coming from the equator, it's considered tropical. If it's coming over the ocean, again, maritime tropical. This would be a maritime tropical landmass. If it was coming over, if it formed over Mexico, it would be called continental tropical air mass. Okay, so that's how that works. All right, a front is where two or more air masses meet. All right, let me see if this has a good picture. Yeah, so you have a chunk of cold air right here, chunk of warm air right here, and I can tell because the on this front, on this boundary, there's these little triangles. Those triangles always point in the direction that it's moving. And so this cold air behind it will be shoving into this warm air. So it's coming from over here, pushing into the warm air. All right. Then we get to air masses, okay? When describing an air mass, meteorologists use the term continental, maritime, polar, Arctic, and tropical. Use the key below to label each air mass with temperature and humidity. First of all, for continental, we need to add that this, oh, why did it do that? See, no. This air forms over land, continental, forms over land and is dry. Maritime, on the other hand, forms over water and is considered humid. Forms over water and is considered humid. Okay, because if it's over the ocean, water is going to just jump into the air like that. All right, Arctic, this is going to be very cold air. Why? Polar is just regular cold, I guess. And then T is warm. Tropical is warm air. The equator. All right, so now we're going to click and drag. So I guess we could answer this beforehand. Hurricanes forming near the equator in the Atlantic Ocean probably form what type of air mass? So if it's over the ocean, that's going to be maritime. And if it's near the equator, it's going to be tropical. And that we abbreviate maritime tropical. I don't know. The humidity always comes first and then the temperature. All right, so let's double click here. What you are going to see is there are humidities. We're going to do those first because they always come first when describing an air mass. So you're looking at this and you're saying, all right, we have a whole bunch of maritime. Which ones form over water? Because that's going to be what it is. So this one is over the Pacific, maritime. See this Pacific? This is still Pacific. So that's going to be maritime. This is over the Gulf and part of the Atlantic. So that's going to be maritime. And then over here, this is in the Atlantic. So that's going to be maritime. Okay. Continental, obviously, if it's coming from Canada, bam, continental. And this is coming, this little chunk of air right here is forming in Mexico, moving on up into North America, so we will put that it's continental. That is dry air. All right. The Arctic air is going to be coming straight up from the north. So continental Arctic, it's very cold. Maritime, this is cold. Polar. This blue one, shocker, is also going to be maritime polar. And then these two or these three air masses moving up is moving from the equator, so it'll be tropical. That one's maritime tropical, this one's continental tropical, and this one is maritime tropical. Steve. Nice. So that's how we label them. We label them on moisture content as well as the temperature. Okay? So those are your notes for today. Make sure you have them down, ready to go, and then do your CK12.